And welcome back to Sullivan's Backstage Pass. I'm here with Mike with the R&B Kings. Mike, I just want to acknowledge I saw you all throughout the competition in Memphis last year or this year, and the amount of amazing musicians you have collected to be part of your supporting cast, like, that's so phenomenal. Like, I love everything about the music that you've got going on.
Yeah,
How did you get started in music in the first place?
man, so I'm born and raised in Chicago, and, you know, I've always, just enjoyed music, but when I was in high school, I tried taking piano, but they wouldn't let me take piano till my senior year, and so when I took that, I was really good. I was already playing Bach and stuff, but everything was by ear, and then, it wasn't until then when the blues and all that other good stuff started coming in, it wasn't until I was 21 years old, and I tell this story sometimes. This lovely, lady I used to work for a big box store, this I'm showing my age here, called Linens and Things. I don't know if, you remember that?
Yeah.
They're long gone now. But anyway, she invited me out to go to Kingston Mines, which is in Chicago. It was next to her university. She was going to DePaul. And she's like, "You ever been to a blues club?" And I was like, "No." She's like, "Do you like blues?" I was like, "I think so." I was like, "They play it sometimes on the radio with it." So we went, and that's when I walked in, and they had, and these are the days of when they smoked crazy in the bar. So that's, yeah, Smoky Blues Bar. It was cool. It was very adult, right? I'm just 20. I just turned 21. I feel like I'm just kind of getting into the world. I walk in there, and there's this guy. I say he's wearing cowboy hat. He's got the big belt buckle. He's got the big cowboy boots. Tall, so tall. He seemed like he was 7 feet tall. I don't think he was that tall, but he just looked that big. Smoking a cigarette while he's soloing. He had another cigarette right at the neck of his guitar. It was the baddest thing I've seen. And his hat had a rattlesnake and a feather. I'm like, what in the hell's going on in here? And he was singing a song called "All Your Affection Is Gone." Well, that blues guy, God rest his soul. He's the late great Chicago legend Dion Payton, and I tell that story because I paid no attention to this woman who invited me on a date. I was so enamored with what I was just hearing that night. It was the first time I got to hear live, like, that kind of music. And then if you've ever been to Kingston Mines, it's a shotgun. So they have 2 stages. So the band plays for an hour, and then on the other side, they had another legend, Lindsey Alexander. He just passed last year. So and this was 25 years ago, maybe, I mean, they were burning down the house. And, she was trying to talk to me, and I was just like, "Okay." I made it up to her later, but, after that, I was just like, "Oh, man, I wanna play the blues," you know? So, in that place at Kingston Mines, as long as you have a college ID, you can go in for free. So, for the next 3 years, that was my weekend. While all my guys are going to clubs, all my friends are going to clubs and doing whatever, I was just like, "I'm going to the blues club down," and, so then I started essentially a kind of like a blues funk band in Chicago, and, I was supposed to play piano, but the bass player I had, he drank a little too much, so I had to let him go, but we already had booked a gig, and, so I'm like, "Well, I guess I'll just have to play the bass and sing," and, that's now I'm the product of that situation, where, I did that. So that was in Chicago, and then it wasn't till and then I was okay bass player, and I was on and off. The band wasn't like I didn't really do too much in Chicago. I did a bit, but then when I got into New Orleans, and if have you been to New Orleans?
I have not.
You haven't been to New Orleans, man. I will tell you it is a place for music lovers and musicians. And it is just round the clock, nonstop gigs. That's why I gig from 11 to 9. There's just gigs everywhere you go. So it's a great place to cut your teeth. But that's where I got in, and I started playing with several bands, and and then I ended up working with a New Orleans artist. Her name was Sierra Green, and I was her music director for a while, for a long time actually. But what ended up happening was I was recruiting all these guys. I'd go out and scout all these musicians, and again, going back to what I said, in a town where it's nothing but musicians, where half the parking spots that are taken are musicians, right? And then the others are locals. So it's like, so you have a lot of time to play with different musicians and scout guys out, or if you're walking through your car, you're just like, oh, what's that? Uh, and so over what it's been New Orleans, I've been in New Orleans for almost 14 years. So over that time, and then on a professional level, I've been playing 9 years. I used to be a mechanic long ago, a certified mechanic, and I did both. I worked on cars, and at night I'd go gig. But 9 years it's been, and as far as my band's been rolling, so I've been able to just find the guys I needed that had the sound. I do have a pretty big nasty squad. Like you only got to hear four guys on the
100%.
yeah, on the album we released, there was 6 of us up there, but on my big, like, festival and corporate stuff, we'll have, like, an eight-piece band. I have a full horn
Oh,
section. I'll use different female singers to help out as well too. So it can get pretty extreme on stage, and I do, I always say I'm the worst player up there because the guys I have are just absolutely just monsters. And think about, when people are like, "Man, how do I get that question?" You won't be the first one to tell me like, "Man, where do you find these guys?" But it's not so much finding them, it is finding them, but then it's also like you get them I get them to my gig, and then we kinda carve out what we're looking for. And then not only that, in what world does anyone else live in where they can, perform for 8 to 10 hours a day, right? Even if it's a paid practice, who's gonna pay for that out of their pocket? Nobody. So it's kind of, to me, those gigs, and I've talked to musicians who are not from New Orleans, they're like, "You're crazy, man, I would never do that." It's like, but you'll go work somewhere else for the same amount of time. That doesn't make any sense. So I think, what you guys heard or felt in Memphis was 3 nonstop years of 8, 9 hours, you know, of just the same guys playing, music over and over and over again. And, yeah.
and a couple of things that you said I want to circle back to, right? Because one of the things that I love talking to artists about is the importance behind the band members getting along. So when you're looking for people in your band, how important is the getting along and being just a cool person piece when it comes to being able to perform live?
That is, that's super important. I think, um, and that is such a so you have your personal side, and so this is where the band leader needs to be a band leader. Yes, you definitely don't wanna get, like, a jerk in your band, and those guys you gotta X out. But then there's also you have to separate your like, when I would have discussions with all my members if there was something that needed to be addressed. I'd do a Zoom meeting. It would be not at the gig, before or after. It'd be like, I'll call them up or shoot them a text like, "Hey man, can we have a quick meet, in like a day or so? Just kind of go over some business and blah blah, catch up." All right, cool. And in the beginning it'd be kind of, you just kind of shooting the breeze and just like talking whatever, blah blah. And it's like, okay, hey, well, let's talk business, right? And then you got to switch it over. And then so when a band leader can separate like that, and your sidemen and your musicians understand, like, okay, like Mike means business, or he's not talking to me in a personal level. He's not attacking me. He's just he's addressing things. But yeah, I think that is important. Do they need to be your best friends, and do you need to go to their house? And no, you don't. I mean, a lot of these guys, I, as far as like my main crew goes, even my main guys, we have lives outside of stage, and we're together already so long. You know, 8 hours a day for 5, 6 days a week. I get sick of looking at you after a while, right? I say that in a
Right?
I say that in a funny way, but it's like I see them more than my wife, so, but I will say that you do build a great friendship, and I will say that playing 8 hours a day is a huge testament to how just awesome guys I have. And when we've traveled on the road, you can't even tell there's a band in the house. We're just quiet. We don't drink. We might have a drink. I don't really. I drink champagne when it's out and available. But a lot of us are just sober, and we just. I don't know. It's so funny. People always want to buy us drinks, and like, what are you drinking? I'm like, I'll do a Diet Coke. I'm like, what? It's just like I'm thirsty, or a bottle of water. But yeah, it is important, but there's like it's so funny you asked that because I think um I think band leaders, especially new ones, don't know how to manage people. So that's another thing too. Is so prior to me being a musician, I've worked 20 years in retail management. So managing people is it's just like second nature to me, and addressing problems correctly, not attacking someone. Like an example, I had a guy, and this is a common thing you can find with musicians: tardiness. Right? Try getting a. There's always that one musician who's always late.
Always that one.
There's always that one. The rest of them get, but the problem is you need to say something because otherwise, what we call it is silent approval, right? If Tom is always late but Jack and Jill are always on time, well, but I don't say anything, so Jack and Jill are like, well, I guess it's okay if we're late. He's not saying anything, as opposed to like, oh shit, yeah, Tom was late. Mike said something, like, tighten up. But yeah, it's having those conversations and sometimes you don't have to be the bad guy. You just need to be the guy that handles business in a what do they say, like you the kind in one hand you're the kindest person on earth, on the other hand you're the most like forceful at the same time, and what I think and then not only that, man, get gigs that pay and you get paid guys rent, and then I don't think you have any issues. And never, and I'll say, if there's any sign, and I've seen this too amongst other bands where there's just kind of this disrespectful banter. Um,
Mhm.
I think falling into that can cause problems. So we just don't, you know. So like we mentioned, it's funny. Sorry, I know I'm talking about, but I want to tell you this is how I have my fun on these long gigs. So yesterday, I would tell you yesterday I laughed for 10 minutes straight on the gig while we were playing. I mean, tears out of my eyes. If I could have fell on the ground, I would have. I was holding myself up. So my other guitarist, you haven't met him yet. His name is Mike Zingale, young man. He's amazing. Him and Paul, who you've seen, are just truly some of the baddest guitarists coming out of New Orleans. And and they both play for me, you know. So Mike sings though. Paul doesn't sing. Mike, my other guitarist, he sings. He does backup. Well, we take breaks. These are long gigs, but we do 45-minute sets, or sometimes I do like an hour and a half. I'll take a little 15-20 minute break. But sometimes just to kind of keep these guys on their toes, I'll detune one of his strings. So when he goes back to start playing something, he goes like play, a chord. So we do like Woman's Gotta Have It. In the beginning, he doesn't use one of the strings. It's not until he goes into the chorus where he does like a full bar where he goes into uses all the six strings of the guitar, and it sounds like absolute trash. And I giggle inside because he's like, "What the hell?" He's looking at his guitar because he's played that chord 1,000 times. It's just, it's a prank that I just think it's hilarious. But yesterday was the best. Same song, but I'm in charge of the mix board. I threw his FX all the way up, so when he went to sing backup, he sounded like he was like in the portal cave of hell. I mean, it was so funny. I was laughing so hard, and the people there had no idea what I was laughing at, but they were laughing just as hard because I'm dying. They're like, I don't know. One lady's like, I don't know what you're laughing about. She's like, I can't stop laughing because But that's like, just messing with my guy. It nonstop. And my drummer, one of my other drummers, Ezel, he was a different drummer that what you guys seen. He goes, I already started messing with them right when we got in there, and he goes, Mike's already starting. It's gonna be one of them days. Yeah, man.
I love that. And that kind of ties into my next question really well, right? Because you're one of those musicians that gigs for so many hours and the grind is real. What is it about the live performance that keeps you coming back and performing on stage? Because there's something that calls you to music. What is it that you love so much about performing live?
You know, I just had a discussion with my guitarist yesterday, kind of involving this conversation. So we're working on our album, our studio album. And I told him yesterday, I said, man, I think I'm just going to be that band that just does live recordings, man. Like, and it's just live and concert recordings. You know, um, I think, I think my band has, I don't know how to say without sounding like I'm gloating. But I'll say what I've been
Can I
told.
can I pause you right there, Mike?
Sure.
This is not you gloating. You are a amazing musician with an amazing supporting cast.
Oh, thanks, man.
You have earned the right to say the words you're about to say. So I don't want you to just crown or put yourself down because just if there's no doubt in your mind, you are an amazing musician. And I just want that to be perfectly clear
Uh,
because like I could tell you're the kind of humble guy that sort of like has this mentality of life of like putting yourself in a lower category than you kind of deserve because you're amazing, man. Like I just
thank
want to throw that out there.
thank you, man. Well, what I would I think what we've done over the years, and I want to go back real quick when I said I would go back to Chicago. I'm sorry, when I not back to Chicago when I go to Kingston Mines for those 3 years, and then when I moved away, I would still go back to Chicago for Blues Fest, not to perform. I didn't even Um, I wasn't even playing bass at 21, but I wanted to learn, and I would essentially cherry pick the things that gave me the feels, And I was just like, oh man, I like that. I like this, And I was like, that's really cool how they did that, and this, that, and the third. And as I started going back, I would literally take my homework and show my guys this. Now it's you can't replicate what these guys do in Chicago, but you can take the essence of what they're doing. And particularly it was things that I like. So I think now then skip forward years and years and years of that. Um, I found that my band not only just gives um, people the feels, you know, but they give me the feels too. I still find myself, just the same guy, Mike Zingale, we played an old song that he's never played before called "Dead Man." It's it's a tribute to the people who have that I know, but that they've ended their life, you know. And it's a really sad song, and but the lyrics are sad and they're very direct. But then the last half of the solo or the song is a solo, and the solo is supposed to be the beginning of this person's life as a child, as a baby, and just the whirlwind of what brought him to the song. In the chorus, he talks about, I'll say real quick, the verse goes, "Dead man is what I want to be. It would take more than my lifetime to say all of the apologies. So don't try to save me so I can live another day. Because I'd rather be here in the devil's room than in your way." Right. So then the chorus, there's another verse, but then the chorus goes, "So let me die. Don't make me stay. Just let me bleed. And just turn away. Just leave me alone here on the floor and say goodbye to the pain that I can't give you no more." So and then and there's more verses and stuff, and it's not super heavy as far as like tons of verses, but it's just very direct. I just thought of it as what someone must be going through. So then the second half of that is the guitar kind of speaking to life, and I'm even getting tear eyed thinking about it now. So my guitarist, he's playing, and you should have seen him. He was just like bawling. He just had like tears going down his eyes. He goes, "Man." And then he's always like, "Geez," he takes out his eyes, he's like, "Man, it's too early for this." He's like wiping his eyes, like, "Jesus," and the fact that I can still get feels from a song that's one of my oldest songs, um, that lets me know that I love music. I am music. Music is me. I'm with, you know what I mean? Like it's, if I don't have it, man, it's just a really sad day. You know, during there was a moment in time when well, we all were here. COVID happened. I was in New Orleans, and then we had a hurricane that rolled through, Hurricane Ida, if you guys remember that. But it was
Yeah.
1 mile per hour short of a Category 5, so it was essentially Category 5. So with COVID, so we lost all of our gigs, and then we had to move back, and I just remember feeling so much sadness because I think, the truth be told, if I'm being honest, my identity would be lost if I didn't have music. I don't really know. You know, there was a moment in time where I had to move to Chicago, and I just felt just completely lost. Though I was welcomed with open arms by the musicians in Chicago. They were booking me on gigs and stuff, but you know, they weren't my band. They weren't my band member. They weren't what I cultivated over a span of 8, 9 years to get those feelings. There's definitely a recipe in what we do, and all that to say is, I think when we rolled into the International Blues Challenge, I told my guys, I said we're more of a contemporary blues band, if that, you know. I said, you know, we're not doing shuffles and slow blues all day long. I said we have that stuff. I said, but we have for, music that is formatted in a blues way. But I told him, I was like, hopefully we make it as far as we can, but we don't change who we are. And I think I could tell that we kind of like became like the darlings of Memphis. At least it felt that way. Like they're like, yeah, check out these New Orleans boys. You know, we you know, I I think we did one lump in the internet, lump like blues shuffle in that blues challenge. Outside of that, we did do blues stuff, but it was, I would consider it contemporary. But it was you can hear, we got videos where people are losing their minds by just the amount of energy that we would bring. And that is, and you know what? Here's something even crazier. My guys were nervous. They were, so so it's the second night. I mean, it's the quarterfinal second night, and we're at the Blue Cafe, I think.
Yep.
Right? Am I saying that right? And
Blue City Cafe.
Blue City Cafe. So you should see it. You know, we're all there, and my sax player Taj, he's warming up. You know, and he's like, man, I gotta get warm. And then the drummer's sitting there like hitting his sticks on his lap. You know, and then the guitarist, he's got his guitar to his ear, and he's, you know, and the drummer's like, man, I'm just so nervous. You know, and Taj is having like anxiety. You know, the sax player, and the guitarist sitting there. You know, usually my guitarist is a pretty cool guy, and he's just like, yeah, you know, how's that song go again? I was like, you mean the one that we've been playing for 3 years? I was, so then it's funny. So they're all talking, and they're like, and I'm sitting there over in the side, just kind of watching the band, and I'm tired. I've been there since 5. It's already like 10 o'clock, you know. And they're like, Mike, what do you think about Mike? I was like, I'm like, what? I was like, man, I'm trying to figure out where I'm gonna put my cough drops when I get on stage. You know, so like, I told the guys, I was like, man, this is just another day on Bourbon Street, bro. I was like, let's just be us, man. Because when we got to the first night, we noticed a lot of bands were playing like 1-4-5, like standard stuff, and my sax player's like, oh man, he goes, maybe we need to change that. I was like, why? I was just like, let's be us, man. I was like, they can, if they don't want us, it's cool. I said, otherwise, I was like, why would we do something different that we don't do, and they're going to sound like that instead of doing something that we do really well? So all that. Sorry to make that a really long thing, but I think I think I playing live to me is that's the best part. I think when what you heard that were you there the whole time?
Hmm.
So what you heard, there was, outside of anchor points in the songs, those guys soloing and these weird like uh up downs and stuff. These are on the spot things that we're doing. There's no, you can tell everyone else had their stuff polished down. It's like at the 2 minute and 30 second mark, we're gonna do that. Like we don't do that. We have what we call anchor points where there's something that happens within the music, like, oh, that note or that bass line is the catalyst to the next part of the song. Or there's something that he'll do in his solo. It's like, oh, okay, this is the part where we kind of look at each other and we just, through telepathy, we're like, this is the part where we jump the one, stuff like that. So I think what people got to see was not a polished, so, so to say, band, but really raw, uh, live and extremely good musicians, being able to be musicians, do their thing. So yeah, 20 minutes at the final is such a short amount of time for us, considering we play for 9 hours a day. You know, it's so crazy. It sounded like all the other bands played 9 songs. I'm like, Jesus. I was just like, how? Where'd he go? And but yeah, that's that's where I sit with live music. So every day, like I said, I used to be a mechanic, and I liked fixing stuff. I just didn't like working with customers. To be honest, it's just, everyone lies about their car. I don't drive crazy. And yeah. So, but I think I love, I dreamed of getting up in the morning and being like, man, I remember those conversations before I was even a musician. I was just like, or, even gigging, or I'll gig here and there. I was just like, man, how cool would it be to wake up every day and know you're going to go be a musician, And what's even wilder, bass is my second instrument, but I don't play piano on a public level. I do it just for me, but bass has let me travel all around the world. I just came back from Iceland, but I've been to India, I've been to all over Europe, and it's just been a blessing. I've gotten more than I even thought dreamed of, you know. Who would have thought, you know?
And one of the things that I appreciated about your performances is just how much you paid attention to volume and dynamics. So, when you are about to perform live, why is it important for artists to pay attention to volume and dynamics when it comes to a live performance?
It's good. It's good you asked me that. So funny. I'm writing a book about all this stuff, but there's a so if you noticed when we were playing, the minute we might come in hot. I will say this: we are a loud band, but we're not loud all the time. And I think there is a secret I try to tell bands. Um, in my case, I'm in New Orleans, so there's a lot of people talking. Sometimes I need to be loud enough where people can't talk to each other momentarily. They need to just kind of be quiet and listen to the band, right? So I get loud enough where it's just like they get so exhausted from talking, And that's just one point. But I think the main reason, let's say you actually have a listening room where people are like, we're here to see you and we're gonna be quiet and listen to what you gotta say. Um, I think the connection, when if we start, depending, we usually we come in hot. But the minute, even if we come up here, if I'm up here volume wise, the minute I start singing, if you notice, and you can go back, you'll see that the drummer will go to a side stick position. We bring it all the way down. Why does he do that? Well, that's something I've always enjoyed. It throws drummers off all the time. They're like, "You want to hit side stick?" I was like, "Yeah." The reason being is because a lot of drummers in general, their snare sounds like a gunshot. They don't know how to control their snare. Not that mine cannot. I just I think it's kind of a sexy sound when you hit that side stick, a loud side stick. But also too, this is one of the main reasons. Um, it's easy on the ears, but also the crowd can hear what I'm talking about. And I think that's super important. I will say, when I was at the International Blues Challenge, there was a lot of bands that were loud, and the snare would sound like someone firing off a shotgun nonstop. And I could not hear what the singer was saying. Which, if I cannot hear what the singer is saying, I cannot connect with the singer. Which, in total, I cannot connect with the band. And it's not that I lose interest. It's just I was never given the opportunity to get any interest. And I think if bands need to understand that, um, I think that's a bit of the magic that we do as well too. Where not only that, I know I got a big voice. I can project well. That is also intentional too. Um, it is important, but volume is, I think up and down is good. I think I know there's moments in time even at that gig where that the blues challenge where we got loud, but we didn't stay there, you know? It's momentary, it's like and not only that, but it's kinda like, it's the if you're on a roller coaster, it's the falling down effect. It's just momentary. It's like, "Oh, shit," and then you come back down. It's just like, ah. And not only that, it makes the quiet parts just as, effective. When you come up from somewhere high like this, let's say if my guys are soloing, I'm coming off a hard chorus, and then they come off, and at the same time they ride in on that high chorus with a crazy insane solo, and then all of a sudden there's that lull. That lull is almost the most powerful part. So musicians and bands should know that it's not always the rise. It's usually when you come back down that lull, because now it's just like, oh man, like you gotta finish the ride sometimes, and it's not always at the end of the song. The end of the song is the end of the song, but within that ride, it's like, ooh, right? Because like when you get off the road, when the roller coaster's done, you get that like, I don't know, that 100 feet where it just like slows down, just like oh, and everyone's just like, you're talking, oh man, that was nice, and then you got the other person throwing up in the back or whatever. It's just like, and then finally you come to the stop and everyone's looking at you, and then you're just like, oh, that was cool. Then you get off. So yeah, it is important. I will say this: I really enjoyed Apostoli Floyd. I couldn't hear what he sounded like the whole time until I pulled his album up on the way back home, and I was like, "Holy moly, this guy's got a wonderful voice. He's got a cool sound." And I think outside of the International Blues Challenge, I really think he's got some potential. Just his voice, his style was very cool. He kind of looked like if Stevie Ray Vaughan was like the Grim Reaper kind
Yeah.
of like, I say that in the most like cool.
Loving and endearing way.
He just had a cool look about him, man, and he could clearly can play that guitar. And when you hear his voice, he has a beautiful voice. But I couldn't hear his voice. I couldn't connect. I could not connect. That guy. I mean, honestly, if we could have heard him a bit more, he might have taken one of the spots in the top three. Our spot. Who knows? Because they were just that good. So that's
And And from an audience member's perspective, when the goes down to that low volume, the hair on the back of my neck stands up.
yeah,
And it's like this anticipation because you don't know which direction you're gonna come out of that low. And it's one of those things that I love about those types of moments in music.
yeah,
And there's something else that I love to ask musicians because like I do feel like the muse is a living, breathing thing. And you never know when she's gonna show up. So when the muse visits you, how do you capture that? Do you like write things down? Do you have a recorder? How do you capture new musical ideas?
um. So a lot of my stuff has been stories of other people, or in some cases, my own experience. As of late, I'm writing a song that I woke up to, and it's called. We're already working on it. It's called "The Blues Was a Crime." It's wild how that song came to my head, and I can't wait to release that one uh, because it is. What's wild is it sounds like a sad song. Um, Usually, my songs are more on the sad heartbreak side, and this one is actually uh, how would you say it? It's like a love song, but like a bad, like a sad love song. I don't know how to explain it. But he says, if the blues is a crime. And the verse, one of the verses goes, nobody gives me the blues like you, right? And then it says, you give me just a taste of your love, then you take it all away. And the only time I can make you feel real good is when you put me in pain, you know. And the chorus is, the blue, and then there's more stuff to this that the blues is a crime. I'd be in jail. You got me feeling so low, and it just goes on and on. I don't want to give the whole song away. We're gonna be releasing it soon, but yeah, that song came to my head. A lot of stuff. So for me, music comes. and depending what style it is. So for the stuff that you guys hear, it usually comes in bass and horn format in my head, and then I hear the melody. Um, I hear a lot of this stuff in my head, and I essentially just hum it out. There's that other song that we played quite a bit. We just released it. I'm looking for a party. That one I wrote on a boat. I literally wrote that. I wrote that for another artist, but they never did it. And I was just like, I'll do it. It's cool, you know. And but that song, all the hits and stuff, that was just in my head. And so I know no one knows this, but I said I play piano during COVID. During that time, I ended up writing a whole um, contemporary piece on piano, 9 different pieces of music in a span of 9 months. I just took the rust off and I started playing again. But all those songs are just from up here, and those you'll be like, oh wow, and they're very cinematic, meaning that they don't necessarily repeat a lot. So there's like it starts here and then it ends completely goes a different route, and that's kind of where I want to start going with the new stuff that we're doing, where it starts off here and it kind of goes somewhere else. Um, Not in a weird way, but just like instead of just kind of having the same format of music, I would like it to have more of a cinematic written style where we start here. So that we played it only one time. I think it was the first night. There's another new song called "Gone Is the Thrill," and that song it has evolved from when the last time we played it to now. It sounds even better. That's another song where it starts off a certain kind of way, and then the chorus has 2 different bass lines to it. You know, and it's but it just makes when you listen to like you wouldn't know it unless you're a musician playing the music, be like, "Oh, they changed it." It's like, "Okay, cool." I mean, this isn't new, there's tons of people that do that too, but I'm just saying and then as far as, like, the blues world goes, maybe that's not as common, it's kind of like you just kinda rotate, you just kinda keep going over and over. Um, but yeah,
And
they
I
have
do think
go ahead.
I do think that there needs to be room for that in the blues though, right? Like we need this experimentation. These things are slightly different because like to rob an artist of their ability to be themselves and to produce music that is entirely up to them and how they feel and the emotion they want to convey places a limit on the music itself. And I don't think that's good for anybody.
No. Yeah, I know so I'll say this, well, I do have to let you know, I have to be rolling out in about 10 minutes if that's okay with you.
No problem. So let me ask two other questions and then we'll get you rolling. The first question is somebody who gigs a lot like you do. What would be one thing that you would like to see from a venue that would help make your music better?
Um, well, I think here in New Orleans, uh the blessing is the endless gigs, but the curse is the endless gigs, right? Does it make sense? It's like, what I wish they would do, and this is more of if I had to take a page out of Chicago, the reason why the few clubs in Chicago stay successful is because they do certain things that I wish these other clubs would do. See, when I go to my gig, I get there, I gotta set up all the stuff, I gotta go, pull all the PA stuff out and whatever, it's part of the deal, it's no issue with me, and then we set up, and we just start, right? Cool. When you go play and that's essentially almost every club in New Orleans, maybe I'll have to pull stuff out of the PA, usually there's some clubs where they have a stage already, and they have a sound guy there, and they'll help you out, then I think same thing, there's like, you just start. I think what what makes a venue premier, uh, is venue owners or booking man or talent buyers hiring uh, professional bands in a consistent level, high level bands, and paying them, correctly, but also letting the locals know that this is the club where people go. And there's a few in New Orleans, like Preservation Hall. When you go there, you'd be like, yeah, they're always going to have the best jazz guys there, right? When you go to You know, they charge a cover. And you go to what's that? What's the one? It was on The Simpsons. I can't think of it. Uh, it's on Frenchman Street. It's something with a cat. I can't remember it. But another place that charges a cover. But one kind of magical piece outside of doing that, outside of having great bands, great musicians, professional guys, and then having the cover charge, but also too having an MC at a venue is such it goes from rinky dink to, oh, this is the real deal, right? There's nothing, you know, when I think when something I see in Chicago before the band start, an MC comes up and gets everyone's attention. Like, hey, we are here. You know, he says his spiel, and they're really good at that. And now, you know, all the way, you know, went all the way from New Orleans, Big Mike in the R&B King, and then bam, you know, that if venues would do that, but in New Orleans, hey, just hire a band. We just need some filler there. You know, I think the venue we play at the most, they they know, you know, I'm blessed to have that gig. They're also blessed to have us too, because it's midday at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, and they got a full bar. It's not because they got better beer, you know. It's it's us, you know. You know what I'm saying? But some of that, but that bar is kind of like what it is. What it is. There's no stage. It's there's no. I don't think you necessarily need an MC. But some of the other venues where they have really nice stages and they do have a sound guy, they don't do any of that. It's just like sound guy's like, all right, you ready to go? And then the band starts, and it's like, man, you know, hiring a guy to go in there and just kind of get it together, that'd be nice, you know. I don't know if that answers your question, how venues can help.
100%. Because the one thing I stress upon venues that listen to this podcast is it's a partnership. So when you invest into the music piece to make the musicians sound better, well, your audience or the people that come to your bar are going to have a better show. And if you're a better show, better artists, better show. And so it's this partnership. It shouldn't be this us versus them. It should be we're in this together to produce and provide great music.
Yeah.
And then the last question I have before I let you go is more of like advice for up and coming musicians, because they're about to embark in a very challenging career path, right? Music is not easy. It takes a lot of practice, a lot of work, a lot of heart, and a lot of determination. What would you say to aspiring artists to let them know that they shouldn't give up?
I think for me, I'll tell these aspiring artists this: you're looking at a man who left $100,000 job, you know, before bonuses when I was working in the automotive industry. Um, I left the day my second son was born, March 3rd. He was born, and I was just like, I need to see this music thing through. Right? I only had a couple, you know, few thousand, and I had about maybe roughly 3 months worth of my bills paid in the bank, if that. You know, that wasn't a long time. And and I was like, I need to see this through. And real quick, I'm gonna back up real fast. So now that you know that, but 3 years before that, know that I was working during the day from I was a mechanic, and then I was running a shop as the manager, the boss, working 70, 80 hours a week, and then at night I'd go gig all night long. I didn't sleep, and then when my wife was pregnant with my second son, I would do my day job, I'll do my night gig, and if I'm done by 2, I'd go pressure wash gas stations for extra money to about 5 in the morning, and then I'll do it all over again. You know, I'll do that for 3 days or whatever. I mean, you wanna talk about that's why when guys tell me they're tired, I'm like, "Okay," you know, like, "Sure, whatever, you're tired, you know, you're tired, cool, I get it, you're tired." But, uh, I think it's not even just wanting, well, it is wanting it, but it's almost like I needed this to happen, and no one's gonna do it for you, no one's gonna rescue you, and this can be a long, long period of time, and I'm talking to the aspiring artists, it'll be a long period of time where you're gonna feel really alone, and when you get to that point, that's because 'cause you're doing it right, and know that it's a normal thing. Peop People will, it doesn't matter what people think, but know that that journey is you and you alone, and, uh, and then so if you can manage to get, if you have that feeling, if you're up at night where you're just like, "I need to go do this music thing," and you can do that, that's one aspect of it, and then the next part is, if you wanna get gigs outside of, I don't have to tell you to practice, you should. Um, I think being kind and respect your, the people that you're working with, and that goes from the musicians you're with, the musicians you meet, the bands that you meet that are before and after you, uh, the bartenders, the guy sweeping the floor, the guy, the venue owners, um, and learn to keep your emotions steady, even though you want to punch everyone in the face, and being cool, calm, and collected with your musicians lets them know they have a safe space, and you can take a, I've done it. You can take a B musician and turn him to an A musician by being a support. Um, it will take time. I don't think in the blues world, if I'm not mistaken, we're only like a 5% niche of the music industry. So if you're going into that field, know that it's already you're against all odds to begin with, you know, and it doesn't matter how good you are. Uh, don't that doesn't matter. It does matter. What I mean is, don't let, when things don't go in your favor or you feel like you've made it where you feel like you've earned that, think again, you know. Um, Maybe you need to keep working on it. Maybe a reason why you're not there yet, you know. Uh, in retrospect, I remember I kept hounding the guy for the Chicago Blues Fest before COVID. I was like, "Man, we're ready, man, we're ready." Well, this, that, and the third, and COVID happened. He actually did book us. He finally, I hounded him so much, he did book us for that upcoming year, the year of COVID when it happened. We had Blues Fest, and it wasn't until we ended up playing there 3 years later after COVID, kind of passed through. He booked us, and then I looked in retrospect. I was like, "Oh man, I wasn't ready for that gig." I'm kind of glad that we didn't get it. I was really disappointed when it happened, when COVID happened, but I realized like, oh yeah, I wasn't ready. So I think for aspiring musicians, I think it's a wonderful journey, and I've enjoyed it. And if you feel that you can, if you feel that you can, sorry, if you feel
No
that you
worries.
fight through all that, and I think to me it's worth it. This whole ride to me, since the day I quit at the hospital, has been nothing but uh, a journey of, and not only that, I'll tell you something else too, Sean. You know what the best part about all this was? I'm my own boss, man. I didn't, I worked a day job forever till I was 36 years old, and I just thought that was life for a minute. I was like, this is all I do. I just go to work and go home, eat, take a dump, shower, and see my kids for and my wife for an hour, and I go to bed. It's just like this can't be it. So, and then I know this sounds really dumb, but once I was a musician and I had an off day, I went out during the day. I was just like, "Oh, there's like humans out here on a Wednesday." It was so stupid, but that's how like oblivious I was to where I'm like, "Oh, I have to work," and but I will say that it's yeah, but this is what when you talk to family and friends, they just see you having a great grand old time on stage, and I am. We are having a good time, but they didn't see me pressure washing 6 years ago, right? I didn't sleep for 3 days before I got to sleep. They didn't. I missed out. I missed out on family birthdays. My kid's birthday. I missed out on. There's so much sacrifice they didn't see. I don't talk about it, until someone asked me. But there's so many things that have been sacrificed. That's another big thing too for aspiring artists is there will be tons of sacrifice, but it's your life. You have to no one, it's that's what it takes, right? So it's either if you want to be a musician and go be an artist or go do whatever, know that no one's your friends can't follow you down that journey. They can just watch. And but it's totally to me it's worth it if you have that drive. And luckily, not only did I have the drive and the want and I needed to happen, but I also had the management skills to facilitate and execute all these things and manage schedules and logistics and all that. That's another thing too. You'll find someone who's a very talented person. They might be a very charismatic person. Being charismatic doesn't necessarily mean you're a good leader, and being able to organize things. So all of a sudden they're hit with like people are calling for dates. They're calling for their money. They're calling for, what's a W-9? How do we get there? What credit? You name it, right? There's a ton of stuff, um, you know, and they get overwhelmed. And that's another thing is I've seen really nice people in the music world here, good friends of mine, where they're like, "I'm going to be a band leader." I was like, "Cool, man. If you need help, let me know." And you could tell within like 3 months they're just completely just overwhelmed. They don't know how to deal with musicians that are giving them problems. And I tell everyone like fire them. One reputation I got in New Orleans is I fire guys left and right earlier in the day when I first started because we go back to what we talked about. It's like you got a bad attitude or you're too late all the time or whatever the case, or you didn't learn the music. I can only have so many conversations with you before it's like, well, you know, because remember that's another thing too is right. My skin in the game was me quitting my day job. Right? I didn't have those. That was it. See, when I had my day job, it's like, what are we gonna do? I still got my stuff, right? Like, I
Yep.
still got money coming in. But when one person can jeopardize the whole band or a gig, now we're talking, right? And then not only that, I tell musicians too, man, if you got family or you got kids, remember that you're doing this so you could put food in their stomach. So if that makes you have to be more hardline about certain things, and you're not asking what's the difference between a band leader telling you to be on time compared to a boss at a corporate job? It's the same thing,
Same
right?
thing.
So yeah, I know that it's for inspiring artists. It's hard to give you everything at once, but I will say this: it's fun it it's fun. It's a different world of maybe what you've seen. I don't know how to explain that until you live it, but you will run into some amazing people, and hopefully you'll be able to travel all around the world. And I've been able to do that too, and it is so satisfying. And I will say that I've gotten more out of music than I had ever thought I'd be able to get out of. And if for whatever reason my hands stopped working, yes, I would be very sad. But I would say that I was able to go on that journey that a lot of people um, are too scared to go, too scared to try, or maybe they can't. I don't know. I talk to people. I'm sure maybe you've gotten this, but I'll get a guy like, "Man, I used to play bass or whatever instrument, back in the days." Like, "Oh, why'd you stop?" I got kids, and, I'm married." I was just like, "I got kids too," you know? I don't wanna I don't know what I don't know what their financial situation is, right? I can't put everyone in the same bucket as me, but I had my own obstacles, and, again, I'd rather do this than anything else, so I think if you have that mindset, if this is the only thing you can do and nothing else, I think people will find a way to do it, and, I've been going 9 years strong. I can always fall back to being a mechanic. I don't want to. My body's not quite the same. Turning wrenches anymore, but it
But I think that's a good way for us to transition to an end because I know you have to go and I want to be respectful. So the last question is where can people find your music? Because if you haven't had a chance to listen to Big Mike and the R&B Kings, you all are missing out. What's the best place for people to go?
so we have, we're on all live streaming music, but if you go to our website, Big Mike and the rbkings.com, we have our link on there. We just ended up using our Spotify link. That's just the best way to easily stream. But if you don't have Spotify, we're on all streaming services, iTunes, YouTube. You just got to literally type us up. You can Google us, and we'll be on there. And our latest album, which I got to tell you, I listened to it again last week, and it is uh it is truly what we sound like. There's no editing there. You know what I'm saying? It was live recorded in New Orleans, and it is the baddest thing I've heard in a long time. You know what I mean? Like it is just it's good. I don't know what to tell you. And we do some originals. We got some really cool renditions of covers with BB King and Bobby Womack, some Johnny Guitar Watson, and there's a Santana jam we throw in there too. And this is all in a live setting, and it's all we're making it right there. I tell people that too. This again, we have anchor points in the songs, but all these solos and all these things that you're hearing, this is right there in the making. The band just being really cool musicians and just listening to each other, letting the instruments talk amongst themselves. And it is just and it is an intense album. It is definitely um, like in your face kind of vibe. So it's I don't know if it's I'm gonna go around and take a take a stroll at the park kind of album. It's more like I got to drive 100 miles an hour, or I'm getting
I
ready,
love it.
I'm getting ready for a fight, or I'm gonna go sprint or something. But
It's your hype up music.
yeah, it's just if you like blues and contemporary blues and that's another thing too. I want to say this. I think I'm gonna have to kind of slightly rebrand the name. When people say R&B, R&B has turned into this confusing state of music. Rhythm and blues, if you look up the definition of rhythm and blues, it is blues, gospel, soul, funk, disco, you name it. It's all mixed into this big old gumbo, and that's that's what my band is, Am I a true blues band? I don't think so. But when I say R&B, people are like, "Oh, you mean like R. Kelly?" And it's like, "No." Like, not necessarily, or like 90s R&B music. It's like, "No, no." Like Luther Vandross, like, "Not necessarily." It's if you just look up the definition, it's just a mix of, to me, all kind of like the cool genres, man, and that's what you're gonna hear. And we definitely have a jam band essence for sure. As I'm listening to this, and that the reason is because we got some amazing musicians that can burn on their instruments, so why not, right? You don't wanna hear me singing for what's wild is I can only put an hour and 20 minutes on a CD, but the album on online, Spotify and all that is 2 hours long, so there's a lot of music. That's how long there's just for record, just for fun, just so you know, on this gig, we played for 4 hours straight, no breaks, but we recorded the first 2 hours, and that's what we gave to you guys. And but yeah, you can find all of our stuff on Big Mike and the RBKings.com, and or you can type us up on Spotify or Google. Our online presence is is there. But the album that's new is called On the Road to Memphis, and that was released about 2 days before we headed out to the International Blues Challenge.
And what an amazing show if you get a chance. So if you're going to New Orleans, look out for them. And if you see Big Mike and the R&B Kings on any bill in New Orleans, I highly recommend you attend. So I'll end the podcast the way I always end the podcast, folks. Be kind. We all live on the same planet. We breathe the same air. And this place would just be a little bit better if we treated everybody with a little kindness and respect. Mike, thank you so much. And we'll let you get to your gig.
Thank you. I'll see you, Sean. Thank you, brother.